Okay, here we go. WaltG Homebrew, St. Patrick's Day 2016. It's going to be a Belgian quadruple. It's a golden drat clone. Here's the recipe. We're going to heat our sparge water, our strike water to about 163. We want to mash it about 150. We're going to add our water and our grains to our mash tun. We're going to mix it very well. We're going to check our temperature here in a moment. One thing I do always do is keep a little bit of boiling water on hand in case I miss my temperature. One thing I will mention is I get all of my grains, yeast, hops, etc. from NorCal Brewing Solutions here in Reading. You can visit them at norcalbrewingsolutions.com. They make one of the best false bottoms out there. I don't use one of theirs, but I know their false bottoms are good. My equipment has been really good to me, so for the sake of consistency, I like to stay the same. But yeah, this is a big brew. It's about 17 pounds of grain for a 5-gallon batch. This is the first time I've done anything this big, like I said, so this is kind of an adventure for me. I usually do smaller brews, cheaper brews. This I'm doing for my boss. He's not going to be happy once I tell him that it might have to age for like a year, but that works. So here we go. We're going to mix this in, and I'm going to try to save stuff and narrate stuff while this video is going. This is the first time I've really done a video like this, so I dump my grains a little bit fast here, so I'm just trying to get the tops wet while we're draining the water out. Been brewing for about 2 years now. Like I said, this is the first time I've tried a bigger brew, a high gravity. I've mostly done like pale ale clones, some small IPAs. Up until not long ago, I didn't have the bigger mash tun, so I couldn't do the bigger brews even if I wanted to. But yeah, we're gonna top this off with water. We're gonna check our temperatures. On this one, I came up about 2 to 3 degrees low, so I added about a tea kettle worth of boiling water, and that brought me up to where I wanted to be. See, all the video was taken on my Galaxy S7. I'm editing it on my Galaxy Tab S2. Right, we're going to try to get a good accurate temperature here. One of the most important things on homebrew is your mash temperature. You want as little variance as you can. Just a change of even a couple of degrees can really affect how your brew comes out and what your gravity is. Alright, we're going to throw a lid on this. I usually throw a heavy blanket over top of it. Here we go. This is a 90-minute mash. I'm gonna stir my grains about every 30 minutes and check the temperature. I think here I did end up adding a little bit of hot water because I was down to about 148. I try to keep it as close as I can, and I've actually been really good about keeping my mash temperature having very little variance from start to end, even on a 90-minute. My equipment's pretty good. It's cheap equipment. I probably have less than a few $100s into the whole setup, and that's what I've grown over the last couple of years. You'll notice a towel on the floor. I always keep a towel on the floor because I always spill water, spill grain, spill wort, whatever. So it's a good idea to have something there preparing you for that. You also notice I'm too lazy to take off my T-Mobile shirt. Lid this thing back up. Alright, now what we're going to do is called Vorlauf. It's a German term. Basically, we're going to drain off a certain amount of the wort. Wort is the, the liquid there. What that does, as the water drains out, it settles up the grain bed and it helps filter your wort coming out into your boil kettle. How much you Vorlauf really kind of depends on you. It's not a necessary step, but it does help clean up your beer. One of the things I've kind of learned over 2 years is just trying to, or the one thing I've improved on, is cleaning up my beer. I think my beer has always been decent, decent to good. I've had some that have turned out really fantastic, but you don't want little flakes of grains and little yeast flakes and pieces of grains, whatever else, floating around your beer. So what we're going to do is you're going to drain off. In this case, I have a gallon container, so I'm going to drain off about a gallon, and then I'm going to slowly pour it back on top of my grain bed. Very carefully. You don't want to disturb the bottom. The idea is the grains act as a filter for it. One of these days, I'm going to get a better camera set up for my phone. The phone has a good camera, but it still involves me doing stuff with it. So yeah, here we're going to slowly pour this back in. As gently as possible. You don't want to disturb the grains near the bottom. See that nice amber color? I'm assuming that's the color I'm supposed to get. And that mash tun you can pick up, or this cooler I use from a mash tun you can pick up at Lowe's for about $40, and I think the CPVC I used and it cost me under $10 anyway. Now we're going to drain into our what's there into our bucket, and we're going to heat our sparge water to about you want it to be 170. Due to my equipment, I heat it to about 175. I open it wide open until I get a bed of water about 1.5 to 2 inches above the line. That gives you a nice thermal layer above there, and then we're going to slow it down to a trickle, and we want we're going to open our valve in the bottom of our mash tun to about the same speed. We want our sparge water going in and our sparge and our wort coming out to be at about the same speed. I keep thinking about updating my equipment to something more sophisticated, but I put this whole thing together for a few bucks. CPVC is very cheap. Don't use PVC. You have to use CPVC. PVC isn't food safe at the higher temperatures. You also, if you glue it together, which I did most of this, except for a few pieces, I went with the orange sealant, which is the one that's food safe at the temperatures. Make sure you read your packaging. You don't want to poison your beer. Alright, we got that to a trickle. We're going to slow this to a nice little slow trickle. I know my equipment, people tell me it's like, oh, you got to do this and this and this, but my equipment works great. I've generally stayed above 75% or so efficiency, so I mean, okay, we got all that drained in. We're looking for a target volume of about 7 gallons. It's going to be a 90-minute boil, so we're going to boil off about 1.5 gallons, and we're looking at about a gallon or about a half a gallon loss. This part's very crucial. Once you get above about 205 or so, keep a very close eye on it. You'll see here I almost had a boil over. There's a lot of sugars in this batch. There's a lot of grains. So you're making a mess on the stove here. My boil kettle is just a 40-quart stock pot from Winco. Cost me $35 or something. The spoon I didn't buy till recently. They're $8-10 or so at NorCal Brew. It's kind of really necessary. Plus, if you really need it, there's a bottle opener on the handle. All right, here we go. Our first hop addition. I think that was the Northern Brewer at 60 minutes. That's 30 minutes into the boil. Total of a 90-minute boil. For our second, that's our Spalt at 30 minutes or 60 minutes into the boil. All right, at 10 minutes in, there's our yeast nutrient. Did 2 tablespoons of that since it's a big brew. There's our Haruto, or however you pronounce it. And then we have 3 pounds of candy sugar. This stuff's kind of expensive. That was got a third of my total cost. I think next time I do something like this, I might try to make my own. If it's not too much of a hassle, just to save money. For the reasons I got into brewing, it's just to save money on beer. One of these days I'll learn to make my own recipes, but it's just nothing I've really had a knack for. So I just go with clone recipes and stuff that people make, and etc. We're gonna stir that really good after we get the sugars in there. The sugars will melt into that. I'm gonna let that boil for about 10 more minutes. All right, then we're gonna move it to my counter, stick the wort chiller in there. You can see as I turn the water on it, you see the steam start coming off of here. You want to chill as fast as possible. The faster you chill, the better your beer is going to come out. The cleaner it's going to come out. You see it from boiling, we're already down to under 150. You want to stir frequently to circulate the wort. All right, now we got Whirlpool. Basically stir as fast as you can. For as long as you can, let it sit for about 10 minutes or so. All your solids are going to settle in the middle. All right, and then we're gonna, very important, once you're past your boil thing, everything you touch, no matter what it is, has to be sanitized. All right, now we got our yeast. That's a yeast starter I started about a week ago. I got a little bit behind because of some technical issues with my stove. We're also going to shake up our water as much as we can. Get it nice and aerated. There's other ways to aerate it, just shake. Release it to my little fermentation chamber here. Got a blow off tube in case this one gets aggressive. All right, and we're almost done here. And this is 10 hours in. I got some nice activity there, and we're gonna take a look at how we're doing. And that's like I said, that's about 10 hours in. We'll let that ferment for about 3 weeks at about 70 degrees, and we'll see what happens afterwards.